Hey everybody, this is Perch. I feel like this mail might get some people pissed. This is one of those things. What's funny is every now and then people live stream slash snipe my videos, and I always feel like the people who do that are slumming terribly. And I'll put this out there: if you have ever either been in the chat or in a stream or are a content creator and you have EFAP'd or live streamed one of my videos, you are scraping the bottom of the barrel, hands down. Like I'm literally driving down the street. I'm passing like an Arby's and other things. In a weird way, you are giving me incredible credibility for the non-effort shit that I do. So I'm just going to put that out there. And this isn't like a psyop, like reverse psychology thing. Literally, I'm making videos while I'm driving on a headset in one ear on my phone. This is not worthy to live stream comment on. My channel is not worthy of having the subs that it has. The part that is, the either the most honest or the dumbest thing about what Mumbles, posts is that even though he's doing a bit and a joke, it's pretty much correct. Like this is time filler, time killer stuff. I'm not changing any hearts, minds, or worlds here, and that's okay. When you go to Arby's, you're not trying to sit down to a 4-course gourmet dinner. You know this going into Arby's. You know it from the vomit on the floor when you walk in. So, you're not upset when you get garbage because you went in expecting garbage. And that's what this channel is. I'm not being so humble as to call it garbage. I'd like to think there's some kind of point here, but this is like some guy's thoughts. I'm not expecting to influence anyone, everyone, anything. Every now and then I talk to, a friend in the comic industry, and there's one guy in particular I talk to for off and on, and he's been interviewed, but it's not who you think. But anyway, he's always very flattering. Like, hey, you have a really good show. I think you're really doing a great thing. And I'm like, you're out of your fucking mind. This is the dialogue we have. I'm like, no, I disagree. I know you're up there in Canada, but no, you're wrong. But anyway, this is what it is. But I'm going to read this mail, and I feel like this is going to be one of those things people argue with, but it's also common sense. And that's the hell of a lot of things, is that some of the stuff we hate to admit to ourselves is common sense. Okay, so let me read this mail to you. It says, hey, Perch, I'm curious. For the last 6 years, channels like your boy Zach and others have talked about how bad creator behavior is the worst thing in all of comics, and that their attitude and the way they treat their customers is killing comics. I'm curious, do you agree? You've talked about how customer behavior is you've talked about how customer behavior is important. I think you mean creator behavior is important, but I don't know, maybe you mean customer. Anyway, you've talked about how customer behavior is important, but you always seem to dance around a little bit how important it truly is. So I want to ask you directly, do creators treating fans badly matter as much as people like your boy Zach, Yellow Flash, and the quartering say that it is? Curious to your thoughts. Okay, I'm reading the mail as I'm reading it. I'm reading the mail as I'm reading it. That doesn't make sense. I'm reading the mail as it's written, but it got kind of weird there at the end. So I'm hoping I'm basically, the question here is, do I think that creators behaving in a professional, good manner is super important? So here we go. No. But no, with a huge asterisk to it. This is like the comment that I think nobody wants to hear, but it's true, which is this. If you are very talented and you are a great artist, you can get away with a lot of shit. This is true of any industry. And you can see this in particular, where it's illustrated more than anything is in music. It was a cliche that rock stars could treat their fans like complete garbage. I love Guns N' Roses. I love it. I've seen the band many, many times in concerts. I've got autographs. I've got a jacket that's signed by the entire band, the original one. I love that band. I have listened to what has to be hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of hours of Guns N' Roses music. I went to a concert a few years ago, and it was sad because Axl is now older and fatter, and it's just not the same. And when I look around, I bought fancy tickets to go see Guns N' Roses, and I was in a special section, and it was up near the front, but it wasn't a mosh pit. I've been in plenty of those, and but I'm older, so there was just like a special like VIP section, and I paid, I don't remember, it was like $2,000 a ticket for this thing, and so my wife and I went, and I was super excited to go. And because my wife and I, we'd been to some Guns N' Roses concerts way, way back when we were younger. But it had been a long time since my wife and I had gone to a show, and we had babysitters for the kids. And so it was a special magical night. And I just spent on everything. I bought like all the pieces, Meet the Band at the end, all that kind of stuff. And we got into this VIP section, and the band is playing. And I'm looking around, and people are drinking like wine out of a wine glass. And I don't know why that bothered me, as much as anything else, but it's like, it's a Guns N' Roses concert, and people are having Chardonnay. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, where's the, where's the beer bottle filled with like half beer and half whiskey? Cause we just like mix the two together cause we're too drunk and stoned to know what we're doing. Anyway, it felt very sad to me, but sorry, I got off track. The point I'm giving here is that rock stars have a legendary reputation for spitting on fans, treating fans like garbage. But if they're stars, if they're so talented at what they do, you put up with it because they're so good. And the reality is, this is true for everything, and it's certainly true for comics. If the comic creator is putting out amazing quality work, stuff that is just astounding to look at, or read, or whatever it happens to be, you will put up with a lot of bullshit. There's always going to be critics, but look, I mean, it's like, I don't want to be to burst the bubble, but if you were in comics in the early 90s, the Image 6 were kind of dicks. They acted and behaved a bit like rock stars, and it was not the nicest environment. John Byrne, a guy I love to death, I've talked to him. Well, I've talked to him up over and over to this channel, and I will forever. Absolutely stiffed me in my comic shop by not showing up. This is a fact of life that some of these people who are absolute legends and great at what they do behave badly. And the reality is, as fans, as customers, as retailers, we put up with it. And I think this is a wrestling quote. If you put butts in seats, then you will put up with a lot. And, the reality of Todd McFarlane in 1992 could, punch a comic fan in the face and get away with it if he wanted to, because his work, he was at the top of his game. Jim Lee, back when he was doing the Gatefold X-Men covers and then, first few issues of Wildcats, Jim Lee could walk into a comic convention. Now, Jim Lee was he was the nice guy of the group. Jim Lee could walk into a comic convention and spit on a fan, and people would just say, "Yes, sir, can I have another? Please sign this book." If there was Twitter back in 1992, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, Not Jim Valentino. No one put up with him. But no, I'm kidding. But those three, I mean, like, Jim Lee could go on Twitter and say, all of my fans are Nazis. I hate you all. Fuck you. You're a bunch of inbred incels. And people would have kept buying his work and put up with it. I'm sure there's a limit. I'm sure that he could, call people Nazis and Hitler enough times that eventually there'd be a revolt. But it would take a lot because he was so goddamn talented. And, if you look to Mark Millar or, I'll give you a name that many of you will disagree with. In 2010, 2012, in that time period, Brian Michael Bendis could get away with a lot of shit and people would take it because his comics sold. His comics were the thing that people wanted to buy. He was a celebrity and he had the talent to go with it. And so the reality is, if you're talented, people will put up with your bad behavior. Now, it's at this moment, I should say that, that's not the right thing to do. There's a lot of hubris in there. And if you're talented, any kind of smart, talented individual, it's the same reason why multimillionaires, multi-billionaires will not travel around like ballers, unless they're dumb. That's why a lot of people who win the lottery and do travel around like ballers 5 years later have no money. I've flown and traveled, as some of you know, in a lot of nice planes and nice seats. And what you will notice is the people who are worth 8 figures, 9 figures, 10 figures, they don't largely flaunt their money around. They just, they live by convenience. If you're smart and you're extremely talented, you're also humble. If you act like a prick, people will put up with it, but they'll also secretly in the back of their minds wait for you to fall, and then they will pounce. And so that's the story with comics. If you are really talented, people will put up with your shit, but eventually, when you start to stumble, people will jump on it. I think Bendis is a good example of that. In 2010, people kissed his ass. To a lesser extent, people kissed Warren Ellis's ass back then. And then, fast forward 10 years, Bendis does a dog shit run of Superman that doesn't sell. And suddenly he is, people won't put up with anything. You can't. Joe Quesada, when he was at his, drawing a lot of stuff and putting work out that people could collect and get signed and pay for, people are going to put up with it. When he's editor-in-chief of Marvel and he's not producing that work, but he's running the company, people are going to put up with less. That's just the reality of the world. And so I'll bring up, now that I've pissed a lot of you off, I'm going to piss off the other half who aren't pissed off yet, who may have been nodding along. But the people who take a lot of heat on social media, the people who you hear videos about where they were complaining about various behavior, like, I'll throw out like Mags, okay? Lots of people have done videos about how Mags is e-begging or Mags is a flake or any of the rest of this stuff. Well, guess what else Mags is? Not successful. And when you're not successful, or when you're not popular, or you're not putting out massive quality work, people won't put up with your shit. For all the videos about Vita Ayala, or Danny Lore, or Stephanie Williams, or Nadia Shamas, or, I can go on and on and on, Jeremy Whitley, what's a common thread with all of those people? Well, the common thread is their books don't sell. I mean, yeah. I'm not making any aspersions to how they are in their personal life. I'm sure they're all wonderful, glorious people, but none of them are putting up huge numbers in comics. And so, yeah, nobody is putting up with that shit. It may be unfair, but right now, if pick your names, like the people who are at the top of the game in comics, there's going to be a major difference if Jed McKay writes a tweet or Jonathan Hickman tweets, hey, a lot of the fans who are complaining about my work are incels. If Hickman writes that, there'll be some people who will be pissed and object and everything else. If Vita Ayala writes that, 10 times the people are going to bitch. Why? Because Hickman writes more commercially popular, successful work than Vita Ayala. It's not doing anything in comics. That's just, I'm speaking to you in a harsh truth. If you are popular, if you put out good work, people will put up with your shit way more than if you're not. And so to the question, does bad creator behavior impact sales? I'm paraphrasing what was said, but does bad creator behavior matter? Well, the answer to that is, it does if you're not talented. If you're not talented, then, you got to go on your charm. Here's an even worse analogy. But again, we're talking harsh truths here. If you are ugly, physically ugly, male or female, you better have a good personality. You got to have some good jokes. Now, like appearance, let's say you're smoking hot. Fast forward 30 years. In that time, you sure as hell better lock down a spouse or a successful way of life, because when the looks fade, you're back to your personality. And if you have a smoking hot body but a shitty personality, that will still work for you for a period of time. But eventually you age and it stops working. So that's the way it is in comics. Look, if you could bring the talent, if you could bring the attention, if you could bring the commercial success, you can be an asshole. I'm not saying that's a good idea. I'm just saying you can. And if you're at all intelligent, you go for, super talented and humble and relatable. That's the right play. But let's not kid ourselves. If you're super talented, you can get away with being a prick. If you are not super talented, nobody's going to put up with that shit at all. And that, unfortunately, is the truth of comics and truth of life. And, what's it? Don't hate the player, hate the game. That's the game. We can all say that's superficial and bad and everything else. But it's a blunt lie, because in a lot of the cases, when you look at these videos, like you mentioned Zach does videos. I guess he's on hiatus now, but he does videos. And you'll notice that he doesn't complain. Like, is there any video from Zach about John Byrne as a prick? I don't think so. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't think there's been any video about that. But John Byrne has been a prick. John Byrne himself has admitted he's been a prick. But he's also incredibly talented. So, we're going to give him a pass, because it's worth putting up with the behavior when you're getting something of high value out of it. If you're not getting any value out of it, who's putting up with anything? Nobody. So anyway, there you go. That's my piss everybody off. And if you've decided to EFAP this or what, I find, by the way, the term EFAP to be just like, what the fuck are you doing? How old are you? Sorry. I know how old. A lot of you are old, older than me. And that's a dumb term. Dumb. I don't like lulz. I don't like lol cow. But EFAP is dumb. Dumb as fuck. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Thanks for listening.